So, always use a new piston. And just like the direct drum, the piston goes in quite easily. Now we're going together, back with our spring and our snap ring, and over to the press, and we'll be right back. So now we've got drum, piston all installed. We're not going to install the sprag right now because we're going to put the clutches into the drum to check clutch clearance prior to putting the sprag in, because if we put the sprag in right now and stack the clutches up, won't be able to check the clutch clearance. I mean, we could, because if we did it the factory way, we'd put the sprag in first and then put the clutches in steels, but you know, end up using the bench mounted dial indicator and pulling this up and down and check for clutch clearance, and I don't like to do that. But we could use this. Now 19 to 36 thousandths is the clutch clearance. We've got 20 thousandths here. We'll use our bent snap ring again and get our clutch clearance in there. That fits just fine, so 20, maybe 25 thousandths of clutch clearance is just perfect. This is adjustable with this snap ring, different thickness snap rings from the dealer. There is not a chart from the dealer, so you take the snap ring down here and you tell them I need one of those. So got our clutch clearance checked and adjusted. Now we're going to go back together with our sprag. I think before we do that, we're going to set our clutch clearances back over here. I think now would be a good time to put our shaft in. Put our shaft in and check turning torque right now. This way we can manipulate the drum without having to worry about the sprag falling out, or yeah, just better that way. So let's set that aside. And to do that, we're going to install and this is actually the part of the final assembly. We can put this together, we can check this, and then we can take the gear back off and leave this together. Then we'll flip the thing over and finally assemble, do the final assembly on the compounder unit. So, on with the bearing retainer. Line up the holes there. And give it a tap. There. Now, I'm going to install these bolts and get a torque wrench, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're just got done getting all our bolts in, and we're torquing it down to 109 inch-pounds. Pretty tight for little bolts, but we got them all torqued up, ready to go. So let's set that torque wrench aside. Now we're going to go with this is our adjustable shim here. Now we go in with the gear. It just drops right on there. And now we're going to go on with our new nut. Now one thing when you're taking, one thing that you want to key in on when you're disassembling the unit, because this gear comes off before the compounder comes up and out of the case. It's a really good idea to take a wheel, a whiz wheel, a cutting wheel, and cut the dimples, the swedges out of the nut. You can see the slots right there. When it comes from the factory, those are peened in, and of course when we're done on the final assembly, we're going to peen these in itself. But it's a good idea to cut those swedges off to have, number one, to have the nut come off easier, and to not disturb these threads. You see how easy this comes off and on here. This is a new nut. So you're always going to replace the nut, just because that's a good thing to do. Now, what we're going to do is torque this to 200 foot-pounds, and we're going to check turning torque. And how we're going to do that, we've got a Miller tool number 9739, and it's a really cool holding fixture that threads into the gear itself. So we just screw this in. Okay, we've got it all screwed in there. It's always nice to do that. And you could make a holding tool, fair enough. Nothing like working with the tool from the factory that makes it real nice. So we've got our $50mm socket here, and I had to go out and get this. This torque wrench goes up to 250 foot-pounds. So you're going to need this is a lot bigger than most of them. So we're going to set this to 200, and we're going to torque the wrench down. Okay, so we've got our torque wrench set to 200 foot-pounds. And you might want to have somebody help you out with this to steady this on the bench. But we're going to just set it down like this. And I really want you guys to see how much it takes to get to that's 200 foot-pounds. Okay. So now we're going to put it back on the bench here, take our fixture off. Now we're going to measure turning torque. And it's real important to understand that about turning torque, the one thing about turning torque, it's different than, say, when you first start turning it to get the piece turning, whether it's a pinion differential or any kind of tapered bearing that you want to check. It takes a certain amount to actually get the gear turning than when it is what you're looking at as while it's turning. And it's about, I think it's about 8 inch-pounds is what we want, about 3 to 8 inch-pounds of turning torque. Because see, it'll go almost up to 10 to get it turning, but as it's turning, it's actually around 3 to 4 inch-pounds of turning torque. So that all checks out. And, you know, you don't have to do this part necessarily if you're reusing your tapered bearings, you're reusing the races, they all look good. It's especially important when you replace any of those parts, the shaft, the bearings, the cups. You really need to take the extra time to make sure that this is set up correctly. So we're going to get this nut off and finish up our final assembly. We'll be right back.